The market was alive with strange sounds and bright lights. Creatures of all shapes and sizes moved between stalls, each one selling something rare, dangerous, or forbidden. Metal cages lined the central street, glowing softly, each one holding a prisoner. The air smelled of hot metal, alien spices, and fear. Ethan stood in one of those cages, his hands locked in silver cuffs that felt too smooth to break. He was tired, hungry, and angry. Days had passed since he was captured by raiders on the mining colony. Now he was just another human slave, waiting to be sold to the highest bidder. The auction master, a tall insect-like alien with glassy eyes, clicked his mandibles and shouted in a language Ethan couldn't understand, but he didn't need to understand the words. The way the alien pointed to him, the way the crowd stared, told him enough. It was his turn. One by one, the buyers stepped forward. Some inspected his arms and shoulders, as if checking the quality of meat. Others asked questions, looking at glowing tablets. Ethan stared back with cold eyes, refusing to show fear. If they wanted a broken human, they wouldn't get it from him. The bidding began. Hands, claws, and tentacles raised in the air. Numbers flashed on the auction master's device, climbing higher with each shout. Ethan didn't know why they were paying so much. Most humans didn't sell for this price. Then he saw her. She stepped into the light like a shadow turning solid. Tall, graceful, and alien in a way that made the crowd step back without a word. Her skin shimmered like silver dust under the market lights, and her eyes glowed a deep violet. Her clothes were dark and flowing, but sharp metal ornaments rested on her shoulders like a warning. Whispers spread through the crowd. Zira. Someone hissed. Even the auction master hesitated before speaking to her. Ethan could feel her gaze on him, calm and calculating. It was not the stare of someone looking at property. It was something else, something colder. She raised one slender hand. Her voice was low but carried across the market. "I'll pay double." The crowd froze. Double was more than any other buyer would dare spend on a human. The auction master hesitated only a second before slamming the sale mark on his table. The deal was done. Chains clinked as two guards unlocked Ethan's cage. He stepped out, his legs stiff but steady. Zira did not smile, did not speak. She only turned and began walking toward the edge of the market, expecting him to follow. As they moved through the narrow streets, Ethan noticed how the crowd avoided her. Even other aliens with weapons kept their distance. It wasn't just respect, it was fear. He tried to speak, but a sharp glance from one of her guards kept him silent. They reached a landing platform where a sleek black starship waited. Its hull reflected the market's bright lights like liquid glass. The ramp lowered with a soft hiss. Inside, the air was cooler, cleaner, almost too clean after the market's chaos. Zira finally turned to him, her voice calm. "You will not speak unless I give you permission." Her violet eyes studied his face as if measuring something invisible. "You will follow my orders without question." Ethan held her gaze, silent. He didn't nod, didn't bow, but he didn't refuse either, for now survival meant obeying. She led him deeper into the ship, past long, quiet corridors. Doors slid open silently, showing glimpses of strange glowing rooms and alien symbols etched into the Thea walls. Finally, she stopped at a small chamber. "This is your room," she said. It was bigger than he expected. A bed, clean sheets, a small table with food and water. No chains, no bars. It was almost kind. But before he could speak, she added, "There are places on this ship you will never enter." Her voice grew colder, especially the locked chamber at the end of the central hall. Her eyes held his for a moment longer, then she turned and left. The door closed behind her with a soft click. Ethan sat on the bed, confused. Why had she paid so much for him? Why treat him better than a slave, yet keep him under such strict control? And what was inside that locked chamber? He lay back, staring at the ceiling, somewhere far away. Engines hummed as the ship prepared to leave the market, as sleep pulled at his eyes. He promised himself one thing. he would find out what Zira really wanted. And if he had to escape, he would, no matter the cost. The Mistress's ship. The starship glided away from the alien marketplace, cutting through the black sea of space like a blade. Ethan stood by the small window in his room, watching the market's glowing lights fade into the distance. He still didn't know where he was going or why Zira had bought him. All he knew was that she was powerful, dangerous, and very different from any alien he had met before. The door slid open without warning. One of her guards entered, a tall, lizard-like alien with golden armor plates along its spine. Without speaking, the guard handed him a folded bundle. It was clothing, soft, dark fabric, perfectly clean. Ethan looked at his own torn, dirty shirt and decided he didn't need to be told twice. He changed quickly, the new clothes fitting surprisingly well, almost as if they had been made for him. When he was done, the guard motioned for him to follow. They walked through the long corridors of the ship. The walls were smooth and dark, broken only by faint lines of glowing blue that pulsed like a slow heartbeat. Every sound seemed softer here, controlled, as if the ship itself was alive and listening. The guard led him to a large open space, a dining hall. A single table sat in the center, lit by a soft white glow from above, and at the table, Zira was waiting. She was not in her market robes now. Instead, she wore something simpler, though still elegant. Her silver hair was tied back, making the sharp angles of her face stand out even more. "Sit," she said, her voice calm. Ethan obeyed. Sitting across from her, in front of him was a plate of food. Not human food exactly, but close enough. The smell was warm and inviting. He hesitated, wondering if it was poisoned. Zira noticed his caution and smiled faintly. "If I wanted you dead, human, you would already be gone," she said. That didn't exactly make him feel better, but hunger won. He ate slowly, his eyes never leaving hers. For a long time they said nothing. Then Zira leaned forward. "You will follow certain rules while on my ship," she began. "You will not wander without permission. You will not enter restricted areas, and you will not ask questions I do not wish to answer." Her tone was calm, but every word felt like it was carved in stone. Ethan swallowed his food and spoke for the first time since the auction. "And what happens if I break your rules?" Zira's violet eyes glimmered. "Then you will learn why the others fear me," she said simply. Ethan didn't reply, but in his mind, he was already making plans, not to escape, not yet, but to watch, to listen, and to understand her. Game. After the meal, she stood and walked toward a side door. He thought she would dismiss him, but instead, she stopped and looked back. "Come," she said. The guard stayed behind as Ethan followed her into a narrow passage that sloped downward. The hum of the engines grew louder here. The air smelled faintly of ozone and something metallic. They stopped at a large door covered in alien symbols. It was sealed tight, with no visible handle. "This," Zira said softly, "is a place you will never enter." Her voice had no threat in it, but somehow that made it even more dangerous. Ethan studied the door, noticing that the blue glow of the walls here was stronger. Something was behind it, something powerful. Before he could speak, the ship's lights flickered. A voice crackled over the sharp, urgent words in a language Ethan didn't know. Zira's eyes narrowed. She tapped her wrist device and replied quickly. Then she turned to him. "Go to your room. Now." Her voice left no room for argument. Ethan obeyed, but as he walked back through the corridors, his mind was racing. The way her voice had changed, the urgency in the message. Something was wrong. Back in his room, he sat on the bed, staring at the closed door. He could still feel the hum of the ship, stronger now, as if they were moving faster, and in that moment, he knew one thing. Whatever was behind that locked chamber, it was the reason she had bought him, and it was something worth risking everything to uncover. A dangerous mission. Hours passed. The ship sailed through the endless dark, stars sliding silently across the windows. Ethan stayed in his room, but he could feel the change in the air. The hum of the engines had deepened, faster, urgent, somewhere. Beyond his door, the crew was moving quickly, their footsteps echoing in the hallways. Then, the door slid open without warning. Zira stood there, calm but with a tension in her eyes. "Come with me," she said, no explanation, no time to ask. Ethan followed her through the narrow corridors, passing crew members who kept there. Heads low and didn't dare speak, they stepped into the command deck, a wide, curved room filled with glowing controls and large viewing screens. Outside, space burned with streaks of red light, a strange nebula twisting like a living storm. "We are changing course," Zira said. "We're going to a planet that few dare to visit." Her tone was flat, but Ethan caught the way her hands moved over the controls. Fast, precise, almost nervous. He frowned. "And what do you need me for?" Her eyes flicked to him for just a moment. "You'll see when we arrive," she said. Before Ethan could press further, the ship jolted violently. The lights flickered, alarms rang out in sharp, alien tones on the screens. Small dark shapes appeared, fast-moving ships closing in, space raiders. The crew sprang into action. Zira didn't shout orders. She gave them with calm precision. "Shields up. Weapons ready." One of the raider ships fired. The impact shuddering through the deck. Ethan grabbed the railing to keep his balance. "Do you know how to operate a turret?" Zira asked suddenly. He hesitated, then nodded back on the mining colony. He had used defense guns to scare off scavengers. "Good," she said. "Follow me." They ran down a side passage to the weapons bay. Zira activated a large rotating turret, the seat adjusting to fit his shape. Through the targeting screen, he saw the raiders swarming like insects. He locked onto the nearest one and fired. A blast of blue energy lit the darkness. Smashing into the raiders' shields, the ship spun away, smoking. Zira took the other turret, moving with deadly skill. She took down 2 more ships in quick bursts. Still, more were coming. A raider swooped low, its weapons aimed directly at the bridge. Ethan gritted his teeth, tracked it, and fired again. The shot punched straight through its hull, sending it spinning into the nebula. The remaining ships hesitated, then turned and fled into the red mist. Silence filled the weapons bay, except for the faint hum of the ship's engines. Ethan leaned back, breathing hard. Zira stepped down from her station, looking at him with an unreadable expression. "You fight well for someone who was in a cage yesterday," she said. He smirked. "Faintly, guess I'm full of surprises." Her lips curved, almost into a smile. "Maybe," she said softly, then turned to leave. But as she walked away, Ethan caught a glimpse of her wrist device flashing with an urgent message. For a second, her expression changed, a shadow of worry crossing her face. Then it was gone, replaced by her usual calm. They returned to the command deck. The red nebula was behind them now. The stars clear again. Ethan expected her to send him back to his room, but instead she stood beside him at the window. "We will reach our destination soon," she said quietly. "It is a place where you must be careful, human." "Why?" he asked. Her eyes stayed on the stars. "Because on that world, even I have enemies." The Forbidden's planet. The planet grew larger in the viewing glass. It was not beautiful. It was a dead world, a dark sphere wrapped in heavy clouds. Lightning cracked across its surface like silver claws. Ethan felt the ship shiver as it entered the atmosphere. The closer they flew, the more he noticed something strange beneath the clouds. The land was scarred with giant cracks, like the planet had been torn apart long ago. In the distance, huge black towers rose from the ground, leaning at impossible angles. They didn't look natural. They looked like they had been built by something ancient and long gone. The ship touched down on a flat plateau. The landing gear hissed against the rocky surface. The air outside was thick and heavy, almost alive. Zira handed Ethan a slim breathing mask. "You'll need this," she said, her voice quiet. She was already dressed in dark armor, light and flexible but strong. 2 of her guards joined them, carrying strange weapons that hummed softly. They stepped outside. The wind carried the smell of dust and old stone. Every step crunched against a ground made of black crystal shards. Far away, a low sound echoed. Not wind, not thunder, something deeper. Ethan couldn't tell if it came from the planet or from inside the towers. Zira led them toward the nearest structure, up close. Ethan saw that the black towers were covered in carvings, spirals, sharp angles, and strange shapes that seemed to shift when you weren't looking directly at them. This place was once a city, Zira said softly, almost as if speaking to herself. Before the great silence, he wanted to ask what that was, but her tone made him stay quiet. They entered the tower through a broken archway. Inside, the air was colder. Faint blue light pulsed from the walls, like the heartbeat of the building itself. Ethan felt the hair on his arms stand up. Something about this place made his skin crawl. The floor sloped downward into a wide chamber. In the center stood a tall, curved vise, half machine, half stone. It looked like an altar, but wires and crystal veins ran through it like living roots. "This is what we came for," Zira said. Her voice echoed strangely in the chamber. She approached the machine, her fingers tracing the alien symbols carved into it. Ethan stepped closer. "You risked a fight with raiders for a rock?" he asked. Zira glanced at him. "This is no rock," she said. "This is the Genesis key, a relic from before the silence. It can change the code of life itself." She paused. "And only you can activate it." Ethan froze. "Me?" "Yes," she said. "Your DNA is compatible with its lock. It will respond to no other living being." He tried to laugh, but it came out hollow. "That's impossible." "Then touch it," she said simply. He hesitated, then stepped forward. The moment his hand brushed the surface, the machine came alive. The blue veins glowed brighter, and a low hum filled the air. Symbols shifted and rearranged themselves beneath his fingers. The chamber seemed to grow warmer, the walls trembling slightly. Suddenly, a sharp noise echoed from above. One of Zira's guards spun toward the doorway. Weapon raised, figures emerged from the shadows, alien shapes in dark armor, their faces hidden by masks. Zira's voice was ice. "Rival scavengers," she said. "They want the key." The chamber exploded into chaos. Energy bolts lit the darkness, striking the walls in bursts of white fire. Ethan ducked behind the altar as Zira's guards returned fire. Zira moved like a shadow, her weapon slicing through the attackers. Defenses. One raider lunged toward the altar, but Ethan, without thinking, swung a loose metal shard and knocked him back. The machine's hum grew louder, as if sensing the danger. Then with a sudden flash, a beam of blue light shot upward from its center. It pierced the roof, vanishing into the clouds above. The raiders froze for a heartbeat, fear flickering in their eyes. Zira's voice cut through the noise. "Ethan, stay with me." They fought their way back toward the entrance, the beam of light still pouring into the sky. Outside, the wind screamed, lightning flashing faster now. The planet seemed angry, alive, and in that moment, Ethan knew, whatever they had just awakened, it was bigger than anything he had imagined. Asterisk. Secrets revealed. The storm above the ruined city did not fade. Lightning danced through the clouds like angry spirits. The Genesis key's beam still shone into the sky, cutting through the darkness. But Zira didn't look at it. She kept her eyes on Ethan. Her grip on his arm was firm, almost desperate. They had reached a sheltered alcove in the broken tower. The air here was quieter, the sounds of battle fading into the distance. One of her guards stood watch at the entrance while the other checked the ammo on his weapon. Ethan leaned against the cold wall, breathing hard. What was that thing?" he asked. "The key," Zira replied, her voice low. "It was created to rewrite life itself. It can change the laws that bind flesh and blood, or destroy them." He stared at her. "And why am I the only one who can use it?" She hesitated, her gaze shifting away. "Because human, you are not the first. Ethan frowned. What do you mean? Zira stepped closer, her violet eyes darker now. Years ago, I knew another human. His name was Kale. He was strong, clever. Stubborn like you. She paused, the faintest flicker of pain crossing her face. He was also the only other being I have ever cared for. Ethan said nothing. The wind outside howled through the cracks in the wall. Kale and I were hunted. Zira continued. My own people saw him as a threat, a symbol of what they feared most. A human who could challenge them. Her voice grew quieter. They killed him. Right here on this world. The words hung in the air like heavy chains. Ethan's chest tightened. He didn't know what to say. Zira turned her gaze back to him. When I saw you in that market, I saw more than a slave. I saw the same fire he carried. And I knew the key might answer to you. He tried to process it all. You bought me. To use me for this? Her eyes narrowed, but her voice stayed calm. Yes, she said. But not only for that, if we succeed. The key's signal will force my people to change their laws. Humans will no longer be property. They will be equals. Ethan shook his head slowly. That's... If it works, it will, she said with certainty. But we are not the only ones who know it exists. The raiders were only the beginning. The guard at the entrance suddenly hissed a warning. Shapes moved in the distance, more masked. Figures, their weapons glinting under the lightning. Zira's jaw tightened. They won't stop until they have it, she said. Then we don't let them. Ethan replied, surprising himself. She studied him for a moment, as if measuring the weight of his words. Then she handed him one of the guard's spare weapons. It was heavier than he expected. The grip cold in his hand. You could still. Run, she said quietly. Run and disappear, before this fight swallows you. Ethan tightened his grip on the weapon. Not a chance, he said. If this thing can change everything, I'm not walking away. For the first time, Zira allowed herself a real smile. Small, but real. Then we fight together. She said. Outside, the thunder rolled again. The Genesis key's beam still burned in the sky, and somewhere deep within the ruins, the machine pulsed, as if waiting for them to finish what had been started long ago. The final battle. The ruins shook under the weight of the storm. Lightning tore open the sky, flooding the black stone towers with bursts of white light. The Genesis keys. Beam roared upward like a pillar of fire. Its energy seemed to make the ground tremble. The enemy was closing in. Masked figures moved between the shadows, their armor blending with the broken walls. They carried weapons that hissed with crackling. Energy. Every step they took was slow, controlled hunting. Ethan could see their shapes through the rain. Dozens of them, maybe more. They weren't raiders this time. These were soldiers, trained and deadly. Zira stood in the center of the chamber, her weapon raised, her silver hair whipped in the fire whipped wind, her violet eyes locked on the advancing enemies. You stay close to me, she said to Ethan. No heroics. If you die, everything ends. Ethan nodded. But his grip on the alien rifle tightened. He was ready. The first shot came. From the shadows it hit the wall beside them, spraying shards of black crystal. Zira's guards returned fire immediately, the chamber filling with flashes of blue and white. The enemy scattered, using the ruins for cover. Ethan ducked behind a fallen pillar, firing at anything that moved. His shots found one of the masked soldiers, sending him crashing to the ground. Zira moved like a phantom. One moment she was in front of him, blocking incoming fire with a burst from her shield emitter. The next she was gone, reappearing on higher ground to take down 3 enemies. In quick, precise bursts, every move she made was perfect, fast, deadly without wasted motion. But more soldiers kept coming. From the far side of the chamber, a massive figure stepped forward. Its armor was thick and jagged, glowing faintly from within. It carried a weapon so large it looked like it could tear through the tower walls. Zira's voice sharpened. Ethan, keep it away from the key. The giant soldier opened fire. The blast tore through the stone floor where the Genesis key stood. Ethan felt the shockwave slam into his chest. He scrambled for cover, firing wildly to distract the monster. It turned toward him, aiming again. At the last second, Zira leapt from the side, her blade flashing in the storm's light. She drove it deep into the giant's armor, sparks bursting from the wound. The creature staggered, swung its weapon, and Zira was thrown back against the wall. Zira! Ethan shouted. She pushed herself up, but blood streaked her armor. Get to the key, she called. He didn't think. He ran, weaving between fallen stones as bolts of energy tore past him. One soldier lunged, and Ethan slammed the rifle butt into his mask, sending him to the ground. He reached the Genesis key, its surface pulsing brighter than ever. The alien symbols twisted and glowed under his touch. His skin burned, but he didn't pull away. The key responded, its hum rising into a deep, shaking roar. The beam in the sky widened, sending shockwaves through the ruins. The soldiers hesitated. Some turned to flee, others tried to shoot the key, but their weapons sparked uselessly against its shield of light. Zira limped to his side, placing her hand over his. Together, she said. The light surged, engulfing them both. The storm screamed. The ground split, and then silence when Ethan opened his eyes. The enemy was gone. The air was still, the clouds above breaking apart to reveal a sky full of stars. The Genesis key stood quiet now, its glow fading to a soft heartbeat. It was done. But the weight of what they had unleashed hung heavy in the air. Somewhere far beyond this world, the galaxy would feel the change. Zira turned to him. Her voice was soft, but there was pride in it. We've won the battle, she said, but the war is just beginning. A new beginning. The ruins were silent now. The air carried no gunfire, no thunder, only the distant crackle of cooling stone. The storm had broken apart, and the dark clouds drifted away like retreating ghosts. Above them stretched a sky that hadn't been seen in centuries, a deep, endless black, scattered with silver stars. Ethan stood beside the Genesis key, breathing hard. Its glow was no longer blinding, just a soft, steady pulse like a sleeping heart. The light in the sky had faded, but its signal, he could feel it was still out there, racing through the stars. Somewhere far away, people, human and alien, would see it, and the galaxy would know something had changed. Zira approached slowly, her armor scorched, her hair messy. A line of blood traced her cheek, but her eyes were bright. You're alive, Ethan said, a half smile tugging at his lips. Disappointed? She asked with the faintest curve of her mouth. He shook his head. Not even close. One of her surviving guards limped forward. Signal confirmed, he said in a rough voice. It's spreading. Faster than predicted, Zira nodded, her gaze turning to the distant horizon. Then we've done it, she said quietly. They can't ignore this, not anymore, Ethan frowned. And what happens now? Will they come after us? Her eyes shifted to him, and for a moment, there was no commander, no alien mistress, just a woman who had fought and bled for something she believed in. They'll come, she said. They'll try to silence us, to erase what we've done. But it's too late. The key's truth is out there now. They made their way back to the landing plateau. The ship waited, its black hull gleaming under the starlight. The air smelled cleaner here, almost fresh. Ethan stopped halfway up the tube ramp and looked back at the towers. He had arrived on this world as a prisoner. He was leaving it as something else. Maybe not free yet, but no longer owned. Zira paused beside him. You know, she said, I bought you thinking you were just a key, a tool to unlock this machine. He raised an eyebrow. And now? Her lips curved slightly. Now I know you're more dangerous than the key itself. Ethan laughed once, shaking his head. Dangerous is one word for it. Necessary is another. She replied. Inside the ship, the engines came alive, their deep hum vibrating through the floor. The crew moved with quiet efficiency, already plotting a course away from the Forbidden's world. Ethan took a seat by the window, watching the ruins grow smaller as they lifted off. Zira stood at the command console, her eyes on the stars ahead. As the planet faded into the distance, Ethan spoke without looking at her. "You could have left me in that cage." "I could have," she agreed. "Then why didn't you?" For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, without turning, she answered, "Because you reminded me of something I thought I'd lost." The ship broke free of the planet's pull. Gliding into open space, the stars stretched before them like an endless sea. Ethan leaned back, letting the sight sink in. For the first time in years, the future didn't feel like a locked door. It felt wide open. Zira's voice came from the front, calm but carrying a weight he couldn't miss. "Rest. Well, you can, human. The galaxy is watching now. And so are our enemies." Ethan smiled faintly. "Good," he said. "Let them watch." The ship's engines flared, cutting through the darkness. Ahead lay uncharted space, danger, and a war that had only just begun. But for now, there was silence, the kind that comes right before the next storm. And somewhere deep within the Genesis key, far away on the dead planet, the soft pulse of its light continued, waiting for the day it would be called upon again. Asterisk.